Hello, friend. Well, I was listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson reflect on the scientific method and his thinking process. And then he said something that made me listen a second time. He said, do whatever it takes to make sure that you are not fooled into thinking something is true that is not, or that something is not true when it is. This leads to the question, what is the truth of who you are? Who is the true you? That's what we'll explore today. Welcome to the Free Me from OCD podcast. If you or somebody you love has OCD, you know that OCD can hold you hostage. OCD can get in the driver's seat of your life. Here you'll find information, tips, and tools to put you back in the driver's seat of your life. I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner, your host. I call on my experience as the mother of a son diagnosed with OCD when he was in college, physician, and certified life coach to help you evolve into the best and highest version of yourself. Well, let's kick this off with a story. When my son was in high school, he wanted to jump into an honors math track. But to get there, he needed his current math teacher to sign off on it. I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what was said. However, I know the message my son received. It was, you're not good enough or smart enough. Now, teachers and coaches hold a position of authority and power. I could imagine that there are students who would say, well, if my teacher says that this is who I am, she must be right. Not my son, though. He knew that he was somebody who was good at math. That's his identity. The teacher's failure to see it made him very angry. He thought, I'll show her. And as a high school junior, he enrolled in a summer calculus course at the University of Washington, and he got an A. Together we visited the teacher. My son handed her his transcript with the A on it. I said to her, you are in a powerful position. You projected my son's limitations without having any experience or evidence that he's reached his ceiling and failed. The teacher got defensive. She said, no, you have this wrong. I was just trying to protect him. I didn't want to set him up for failure. I pointed out that first, she was wrong. His college performance proved that. Second, whether he could perform well or he struggled in that class, he'd learned something about himself. Well, by the time we arrive into adulthood, we've heard other people tell us things about ourselves. Sometimes it's helpful. They point out our gifts. You've got a real eye for color. You're such a kind person. You have a beautiful singing voice. Sometimes it's not true. This may be before your time, but at the very beginning of the singing competitions, there was a show called American Idol. And about 20 years ago now, William Hung was a civil engineering major who wanted to pursue a singing career. He'd won a singing competition at UC Berkeley where he was a student, and now he thought he'd go bigger. Before the music started, William told the American Idol judges why he thought he could be the next American Idol. He said it's not because he was the best singer, but because he sings from the heart. Then he sang his version of Ricky Martin, She Bangs. Simon Cowell did not sugarcoat his feedback, saying everything about it was grotesque. You can't sing, you can't dance. So what are you going to say? William shot back, I gave it my best. I have no regrets. And you know what happened? He went on to appear at Entertainment Tonight, The Ellen Show, and Jay Leno. He even got a record contract. He held onto his identity. I'm a person who sings from my heart, and reaped the benefits from that identity. It worked for him for a while. After a bit, his show business slowed down, and ultimately he went on and became a math teacher. Sometimes our identity is formed as we try to make sense of our interactions with the world. No one tells us. We just use our reasoning skills and create what scientists would call a hypothesis. But we never test it. We accept the hypothesis as the truth of who we are, and we often get it wrong. The people who are likely to get it very wrong are the people navigating the neurotypical world with a neurodivergent brain. They develop identities early. There's something wrong with me. I'm not like the other kids. I'm broken. They're fooled into thinking something is true that is not. So what's the truth of who neurodivergent children are, or any of us with a neurodivergent brain for that matter? We all have brains that do something very well. We all have environments in which we thrive. I'm a big gardener, and let's say I fall in love with a plant. It's a sun-loving plant, but the only place I have is the shade. Well, that plant's not going to do well because there's not a good match between what the plant needs and what the environment offers. So too, we can find ourselves in situations in which there's a mismatch. It's just not a good fit. And we can own all of it without judgment. When I was in medical school, there was a woman who had a chemical sensitivity to printing ink. She had to put her texts under glass so that she could study them. So she just told the truth of who she is. She's a person with chemical sensitivity. Some people snickered, but she didn't care. She continued to engage in these self-care practices because she had to. What if all of us could act more like this wonderful woman? Somebody with OCD could say, my brain offers nonsense thoughts and I'm learning to manage it. Or my nervous system gets dysregulated when I'm in noisy places, so I wear headphones. Even neurotypical adults hold on to an identity of not being good enough or smart enough or thin enough. When we have the experience that it's not safe to show up as our true selves, we go into hiding. Jamie Kern-Lima, the author of Worth, said, we send our representative who fits better. And there's a cost to that. The truth of who we are gets lost under this mask. So I invite you to consider, what is the truth of who you are? What lies have you accepted as true? Take out a piece of paper and write down the identities. I am. Then step back and ask, is this true? Could the opposite be true? And ultimately, your intuition will lead you to the truth. So just imagine a world in which every person is celebrated for exactly who they are. Well, fortunately, as a society, we're moving in that direction. But often, this has to come from within. You have to make your place and come with the thought, I am who I am. My son knows who he is. When people get him wrong, sometimes he still likes proving them wrong. More frequently, though, he understands that a person's opinion about him says much more about that person than about the truth of who he is. So be the true you. That's what I've got for you today. Thank you for your listening eyes and ears. Let me leave you with the final thought. Many families touched by OCD feel alone in their struggles. If you found this information helpful, please feel welcome to share it with friends and families and communities in which you participate. Please leave a review of the podcast. That makes it easier for other people who need this message to find it. And if nobody has told you today, I honor your courage. Thank you again for making this investment in your family and in yourself. You've got this.